Are you thinking of moving to Seattle, Washington, but you want to know what some of the safe neighborhoods are in Seattle? Well, stay tuned. This video, we're going to talk about the safe neighborhoods in Seattle. Hey everybody, my name is Tova Williamson. I'm a local real estate agent in the Seattle metro area. And on this channel, I shoot tons of videos of what it's like to live in the Seattle metro area. So if those are videos you want more of, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell. You'll be notified every time a new video comes on. We get reach outs all the time from people moving here. We love hearing from you, but we can't help unless you call. So give us a call, email, text. We got your back when you're moving to Seattle. So on this video, I am going to talk about some of the safe Seattle neighborhoods and how they're rated. So niche.com is a really great website that I always recommend people check out. It gives ratings on different areas based on safety, affordability, livability, things like that. So digging into niche.com, I found some of their crime ratings. And so I'm going to go over some of the highest rated neighborhoods on niche.com for crime ratings. These are all neighborhoods that scored either an A or a B plus. There's more that scored like B, B minus, and C, but I'm just sticking to like the top tier here. So we're going to dive right into that. But before we do, I want to share my screen here. If people are moving to the area, concerned about safety, obviously, I highly recommend checking out the Seattle Police Department's crime dashboard. You can find it on seattle.gov's website. It's a great resource to be able to look and pull up and see just where like real-time crime is happening in the city. So if you pull it up and you go to the crime dashboard right here, you can see it shows a map. You can click on the different areas and it will tell you the different crime and what's going on. You can compare years and see how things are playing out year to year. So it's just a really great resource, and it gives some of that more like real-time actual numbers and raw data to show you what some of the safe areas are. You can check on monthly trends. You can click and go to the crime reports here. They publish all the crime reports from the previous years. You can click and see it like shootings and shots fired and what neighborhoods that's happening in, crime rates, their methodology. So this is just a really good resource. And if that's something, if you're moving to the area and want to like really dive in and find what safe areas are and where most of the crime is happening and what kind of crime is happening where, this is a really great resource. So I always recommend people to check this out too. But also niche.com is a good kind of comprehensive list too of other factors besides safety. So we're going to dive right in. So number one that Niche had listed for their safest neighborhood is Windermere. So Windermere scored an A plus for safety. So if we pull up the map here, we've got Seattle. In general, Windermere sits just right up here in Northeast Seattle. It's a really small neighborhood, not a lot going on here. It's mostly just houses. There's not a ton of things, not a ton of like restaurants or anything here. It's mostly just big old houses that sit and have a view of Lake Washington. They're really beautiful. The homes here are multi-million-dollar homes. So I think that's why it obviously gets a really high rating, is there's just not a lot going on here. It's all just homes. Like you don't really have a bunch of activity here in general. So definitely more quiet neighborhood, but this is rated A plus on niche.com for safety. They also have really good schools that are really desirable in this area that people like to go to too. So I think that helps with its livability score. So Windermere, number one, A plus for safety. Number two we're going to go to is Laurelhurst. So that is just south of Windermere here. A lot of times these neighborhoods kind of just get like mashed together when people talk about them because they're very similar. Laurelhurst, same thing, is mostly going to be single family homes, large homes, view homes. Again, you're looking at 2 million plus in these neighborhoods just because these homes are so big. And a lot of times what you're paying for is like that status of being in the Laurelhurst neighborhood. Like honestly, the same exact home, even in a neighboring neighborhood, is going to cost way less because it doesn't have that like Laurelhurst address. So just something to keep in mind. But again, there's just not a lot going on in this area. So I think that's where its safety rating gets rated really high, because there's not much to do in these areas. But these two areas, Windermere and Laurelhurst, are very close to University Village, which is this really big shopping center. You're close to the U District. close to University of Washington. So it is really close proximity to a lot of things. It's not going to be super walkable. Mostly you're going to be driving to other things, or you can catch public transportation. So just something to keep in mind in those areas. Definitely just like big houses, not a lot happening. You're going to have to leave the neighborhoods to go do anything. Number 3 neighborhood that we're going to talk about for safety is North Beach and Blue Ridge. So they scored a B plus on niche.com. So to get to North Beach and Blue Ridge, we're going to go north here of downtown Seattle. So this is a neighborhood in North Seattle. It sits on the water also. So this looks over Puget Sound versus Windermere and Laurelhurst look over Lake Washington. So a lot of homes here. You can find some really amazing view homes in this area, mostly going to be single family homes again. There are more townhouses kind of coming into the area. There's been a big push for density in the city because we don't have a lot of housing. So we've seen more townhouses being built here. But again, homes in Blue Ridge, you're less than Windermere and Laurelhurst. You're looking at probably 1.2 million and up. So again, it's also a more quiet neighborhood, not a ton in the neighborhood directly, but if you go south down to 85th, you've got a bunch of stuff and restaurants that you'll start to see. Or if you go over, you're pretty close to Greenwood, which has a lot happening, and then Ballard down south, which has a ton happening too. So it's kind of like this quiet neighborhood that's still close to some things, but not a lot happening within the neighborhood itself. One thing to note too, North Beach and Blue Ridge are really close to a lot of parks, which is nice and why a lot of people like them. You have Carkeek Park up here, which has a ton of walking trails, really nice, big park to walk around in. Same with it's pretty close to Golden Gardens Park, which is a really nice park. There's a huge beach and you can have bonfires on the beach. So North Beach and Blue Ridge are both good areas just with your proximity to parks and proximity to a couple different happening neighborhoods, but then you're far enough away from it that you don't have all of that, like, I guess, like hubbub of these more active communities. So I think that's what gives it its safety rating too of the B plus. So next neighborhood we're going to talk about is Fauntleroy. That scored a B plus on niche.com. So Fauntleroy, we're heading on down to West Seattle, which is an area that is west of Seattle, hence the name. So Fauntleroy, again, it's like one of these neighborhoods. There's not a ton going on in Fauntleroy. It's down here. You're close to Lincoln Park, which is a really, really cool park right on the water too. Tons of walking trails. You've got the Southworth Fauntleroy Ferry. You can hop on that and go out to the peninsula for a day trip if you want. You're close to this area, Target, kind of like Del Ridge and White Center, which coincidentally usually don't rate very high for safety. So it's interesting that Fauntleroy is rated as a B plus because it is adjacent to some of these areas that are a little more known to be less safe. I think some of these have like this Westwood Village, just big retail cores, so you get a little bit more. But Fauntleroy, you're looking at about 900,000 and up for home prices, so definitely more affordable than Windermere, even North Beach, Blue Ridge. It just depends on the type of home. We're seeing a lot more new construction townhouses coming up in these areas too. So, or you get older homes too. So Fauntleroy, same thing, not a super active neighborhood as far as things to do. You're going to be going over to like White Center, this big shopping center in Del Ridge, or then if you go up California Ave, you've got a couple different areas up here, which are really popular. North Admiral too is really fun area to go. There's a bunch of shops. So that is Fauntleroy. They also have Fauntleroy Park too. So kind of this, it's just a tiny little neighborhood right in here that, again, in this neighborhood, you can find some really nice view properties too. And what you can't tell on these maps, a lot of these neighborhoods, like Seattle's very hilly. And so a lot of these areas sit actually up and then down to the water. You're like going down a hill. So you can really get some really good views in these areas like North Beach and Fauntleroy. So number 5 neighborhood that rated in the safety was Briarcliff, which is really just part of Magnolia. That's an area right up here that just is kind of like northwest of downtown Seattle. So Briarcliff, you see right here. I think Magnolia as a whole is a pretty safe area. Briarcliff scores a B plus. I think other parts of Magnolia maybe get like a B or a B minus, not as safe. So Briarcliff is kind of in that top rating. But again, Same thing, kind of just a small area, Briar Cliff. It's a lot of homes that sit up on these cliffs that look at these beautiful, you can get really great views of sound and also of downtown Seattle from Magnolia. The schools are also very desirable in Magnolia too. So that's something that brings people in that increases prices. But Briar Cliff has a B plus, and the homes there you're looking at about 1.2 up to like 2.5 million. Again, there a lot of this area is known for these very large, like stately homes that have these really great views, like you can see of this picture, really amazing views of the water. And then one area in Magnolia that's super popular to go to is Discovery Park. This has a ton of walking trails. You've got beaches that you can hike down to. So this is a really, really awesome park to have access to. So Briar Cliff is really close to that. I mean, you can walk there, but you might drive to and park and walk around there. So that is number 5. Briar Cliff is one of the safer neighborhoods in Seattle, according to niche.com. So the last one we're going to talk about is number 6, which is Arbor Heights, which again, we're going to go back down to West Seattle. Same thing. It's this weird little tiny neighborhood in West Seattle right here. That's just south of Fauntleroy Park. Again, I mean, it's literally like this little tiny square. So not a lot happening here, but they get a B plus for safety again, because it's only houses here, like not much going on, but you are close to some of these different parks. And then you've got some shopping centers over here. The one thing about Arbor Heights is prices are a little bit more affordable here. You've got some starter homes in the 500-600 range. They're going to be smaller, but you can find some things that are a little bit more affordable. And then if you have views, and the bigger homes go up from there up to 1.5 and higher. So those are some of the top rated Seattle safe neighborhoods according to niche.com. They all scored A's and B pluses. Again, I think overall, generally, there's a lot of other neighborhoods that are relatively safe in Seattle that are rated B's, B minuses, even in the C's that you can still find. I think a lot of these areas scored so high because they don't really have anything else going on. They're just houses in there, so there's not a lot of activity. Some of the other neighborhoods with more restaurants, bars, clubs, things going on tend to just have higher ratings of, or I guess lower safety ratings, because there's just a lot more activity, a lot more like people involved. So those are the top rated Seattle safe neighborhoods. If you're thinking about moving to Seattle and want to talk about neighborhoods, give us a call, email, text. We got your back when you're moving to Seattle.